Gentlelady from Hawaii is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both Mr. Vollrath and Ms. Farrell, I have sat in this committee as well as in the major committee and have asked many people, including all the chiefs and the joint chiefs, a very simple question in my mind, which is, what does the military of the future going to look like? And to my surprise, no one knows. Matter of fact, I think General Chiarelli said it best when he said, all I can tell you is that we've been 100% correct in not being able to predict it at all. Basically summarizing it. And now that's what I come back to what both of you have said. Ms. Farrell in her written testimony, you in your statement, is you talk about a new defense strategy in terms of the civilian workforce, and Ms. Farrell talks about the on page 8, mission critical occupations. So my question to both of you is, when you both say that, what, Mr. Secretary, is that new defense strategy that you are looking to the civilian workforce, all workforce, to get to? And Ms. Farrell, when you talk about your mission critical occupations, it's what is the definition of mission and what makes it critical? So beginning with you, Mr. Secretary.
Thank you. When I talk about this as a strategy, it's a framework for a strategy. As I mentioned before, several years ago, to find out maybe as 5 or 6, cyber would not have been on the table. It is now. What I'm trying to convey is that in this strategic workforce planning, we have now put inside the capability to have greater visibility of contracts for services, the civilian workforce, and the military side by side. That's a markedly different approach than we have historically pursued. I do not want to leave you with the impression that because of that, we have this now greatly improved ability to look out 8 years and see what that workforce is going to be. We do not, but we do, in this process, try to push the limits out as far as we can. For example, I mentioned cyber. One way is to say, well, we'll just grow the military. That'll take a long time. The other is to say, can we complement that with the civilian workforce? The answer, as I gave you before, is yes, we can. We can input that talent much faster and at a higher level in order to accomplish the change that's coming. Now, we aren't any better because of the processes in divining what's going to happen 6 years from now. We are paid to try to do that. We are paid to come up with systems that would assist us in doing that. And frankly, as we get better at this, we're going to make some guesses, and they may not turn out to be exactly right. But the good news is we are now in that position to start taking that professional look further out with more information on which to make those types of decisions.
Ms. Farrell?
Yes, it is in the National Defense Authorization Act for 2010 that requires DoD to include its critical skills for its existing workforce as well as the future. The 2010 was an amendment. Actually, they've been required since 2006 to develop such a plan. So DoD chose to use what they call mission critical occupations to identify their critical skills. They came up with those occupations through discussions at very senior levels and with the functional community managers. That's our understanding. The NDAA requires DoD to report their critical skills and competencies for the year that they're issuing, as well as 7 years out. So it's not 10 or 20 or 30 years in the future. It's 7 years from the issuance date of the plan, and the plan is required through this year. There'll be another plan that will be, for example, 2012, and then we'll project for 7 years out.
So, Ms. Farrell, would you agree with me that basically what you were studying was basically their best guess at what we would need?
They're not our identification. We are.
No, I understand.
we're-
What
yeah.
you're doing your analysis on is their best guess. We need the DOD's best guess of what we were going to need in terms of workforce for the next 7 years.
We are looking for what decisions they are making that are data-driven. There are ways to identify skills and competencies to gather data, including what are emerging issues in information technology management.
But it's still based on their best guess. If they don't know, that's what you're doing
there
the
could be
analysis.
data that they could collect from functional community managers as well as doing surveys to identify what those critical skills and competencies that are needed today as well as what's on the horizon.
Mr. Chairman, I will ask to be able to follow up in writing. Thank you.